So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jorge from Citi, who come on up, and he's going to introduce what Citi's up to.
Well, thank you, Brian. First of all, thank you everybody for coming. Busy week for Miami. We have the tennis. We have Sime with the music event going on as well. We have the Miami Beach celebrating 100 years. So there's a lot going on in Miami tonight, so thank you for coming. And I think it's awesome to see how many people want to talk about fintech and how fintech can have some impact on financial technology. This is the second fintech event that we are doing as Citi. One of the reasons why we're doing this as Citibank is because we want to support communities like Miami to have the startup community grow into an ecosystem that it's bigger and hopefully create something that will transform Miami into a global hub for fintech. You know? And if there's something that you guys take out of tonight, it probably will be great if you have a new partner, a new idea, something that you can do and start building a new Miami in terms of what fintech is all about. Miami is a fantastic place. I live in Miami. I've been living in Miami for the past 10 years. Today I was having lunch with a group of friends and buddies here. We were discussing about what Miami offers you, and offers you everything, you know. And the only thing that it's probably missing is a little bit more startups and hopefully more in the fintech space. So tonight we're going to talk about financial inclusion and how technology has something to do with this. And I think for all of us here, probably we already know that the infrastructure, it's already out there. You know, in most of the countries, whether that is in Asia, Latin America, wherever you go, the penetration on phones is 100% or more. And most of the devices that people are using to the business are already enabled for data. And in a few years, all of the devices will have data abilities. So that is a great opportunity for all of us that are in the technology space to be able to build new things around financial inclusion. So when we think about financial inclusion, the way we like to see is that there's a way that we can add value to people's lives and hopefully enhance the business that they do. It's not just about building a channel, have something new for them to play around with, but hopefully something that will help them build a business around it. You know, and a great example of that is what Square has been able to do and solutions like Square. That people that before were not able to sell with digital channels like a credit card, now they can. And that was a fantastic way of really introducing people in a more efficient way of being part of an ecosystem, a digital ecosystem. So for that, what we've done is we have invited a group of panelists that they're going to talk about financial inclusion and technology. And for that, we have a new startup that is here in Miami. And Angie will introduce them later with more details, but a great startup called Walletero, so we're going to hear about them. We have a very robust company in terms of prepaid, Novo Payment, a great friend of ours. And then we have MasterCard, obviously rails that we all need for the payments to go through. Then we have Catalyst, which is a non-for-profit that supports communities, which is fantastic. And obviously we have Someone from Home, which is financial inclusive. So for that, I'm going to invite Angie to come up, and she's going to be our moderator. She runs branding for Citi. She comes from New York, but she's almost from Miami because she has married a Colombian. She dances, she speaks Spanish. So soon she'll be here with us in the community. So thank you. And before I pass on the mic to you, Elena, where are you? Elena from my team, she runs Citi Fintech Meetups globally. So thank you for putting this together, and obviously to RefreshMiami.
Thank you, Jorge. And Elena, a huge congratulations. This is a fantastic event. And Brian, thank you for partnering with Citi. I know Refresh from my time in Miami several years ago, and you guys have been here since the beginning, and we're really proud to be working together with you on this. I will invite the panelists to come on up. I feel silly standing here all by myself. And have a seat. Great. So do you each have a microphone behind you? Are we all comfortable? Any of your microphones? You should have one in your chair. Yeah. So what we're going to focus on today is this conversation about the intersection of financial inclusion and fintech. So there's probably some of you who know what we mean when we say financial inclusion, and others who kind of have an idea but aren't really sure. So we'll sort of start the conversation there. What is this? Why does it matter? And then ultimately get around to what can you do about it as developers? What can you contribute to helping to solve this? We want to get a little provocative. We've got a lot of different types of pieces of the ecosystem here on the stage, and really ask questions about, what does banking mean in a digital age? But first I'll give everyone a chance to just say hello, give a little information about your company and what you mean when you say financial inclusion. So we'll start here.
Well, hi everyone. I'm delighted to be here and share this opportunity with this fantastic panel. My name is Anabel Perez. I'm originally from Venezuela, living in Miami for more than 5 years. Co-founder and CEO of Novo Payment. We are a fintech company that enables different type of organization to enter into the digital space. Basically, what we do, we help corporations of different size from different industries in the process to convert cash to digital. We have been in the market for 10 years, and we have presence in Colombia, Peru, Venezuela, Mexico, and entering this year to Chile.
Great.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Just very, very excited about having a conversation with all of you around financial inclusion, a topic that I'm very, very passionate about. My name is Solana Cozzo. As Jorge mentioned, I work at MasterCard. I lead financial inclusion for Latin America and Caribbean, and I also run the prepaid, mobile, and personal payments business within MasterCard for the region.
Hello, everybody. My name is Gretchen Biesing. I'm the CEO of Catalyst Miami. We are a local nonprofit. We've been in business for about 20 years, and essentially we are an anti-poverty focused nonprofit. Our flagship program is called the Prosperity Campaign, and through the Prosperity Campaign we focus on asset building and financial inclusion in low-income communities across the county.
Hi. It's great to see such a full room tonight. This is wonderful. It's a great event, and thank you for RefreshMiami for assembling this. This is amazing to see this kind of thing come together. My name is Marshall Sitton. I work for Citi Community Development and Citi Inclusive Finance as a VP of Communications. What we do in community development is we work to expand financial inclusion for low and moderate income communities, underserved communities, and vulnerable communities in the United States. And for inclusive finance, we form partnerships and work to build systems with government and corporations to expand financial inclusion internationally. So,
thank you. Hi, my name is Etienne. I'm from Belgium and Spain. I'm in Miami for 2 years now, and I'm one of the co-founders of Walleteros, and we are a mobile check cashing solution for unbanked and underbanked US Hispanics. And the idea we have about financial inclusion is basically helping people to improve their daily life. Imagine you have no bank account, you have to deal with all your money in cash always, everywhere. You have to pay huge fees, you have no place to keep your money, and you depend and you rely on very bad solution for managing your money. You have no savings. I mean, it's quite a tough life if you imagine to deal without a bank account.
Great, thank you. So I think that's a great start for just the beginnings of an answer of what does financial inclusion mean. I'll throw out a stat and then I'm going to punt over to Marshall. Miami is the most unbanked large city in the United States. Yeah. Yay, Miami! And if you add together the people that don't have a bank account with the people that may have one but don't really use it and still rely on check cashers, it's more than 50% of the population of Miami, which is really astounding for a city with this much wealth. We're also a city with a lot of poverty. So Marshall and his team worked with an organization called CFED that conducted a study that sort of looked at these questions. So I'll start with you. Just can you give us a little more color on what this issue looks like in the United States, and then we'll look a little bit more broadly around the world.
So a lot of what what I would say everyone in this room is concerned in is with the notion of services, right? And when we think about what services are, they are a commitment to solving a problem. If I had to define it, I would use a definition I heard recently, which is that it's a commitment to solving a problem. So much of that is involved in understanding the shape of the problem and going deeper, as he just really eloquently put it, to see where the service gap is and where the needs really are in society. The study that we sponsored with the Corporation for Enterprise Development is called Family Assets Count. You can actually use this tool for yourself at familyassetscount.org. What it measures is not just the amount of the percentage of unbanked and underbanked populations in major cities around the country, but what it looks at is a larger perspective of household economic fragility and vulnerability. So we understand the shape of poverty roughly, right? We know poverty rates in terms of understanding. It can be a fixed object. What we understood less, and what CFED understood here, was that we understood less was the notion of vulnerability, fragility. Who are the households on the edge? And so what Family Assets Count looks at is a stat called liquid asset poverty. The way we define liquid asset poverty is if you as a household don't have sufficient savings to sustain 3 months at the poverty level in the event of a shock to income, like the loss of a job or an extreme medical bill or something along those lines, then you're liquid asset poor. You have this very, very fragile state where one bump in the road financially could lead to financial ruin for your household. Well, when you look at, we talk about a reduction in poverty over time. We talk about a reduction of unemployment rate, but liquid asset poverty is extreme. In the United States, nearly 1 in every 2 households is liquid asset poor. In Miami, that number is 67%. So I mean, it's jaw dropping, and it's not just people who are living in the poverty below the poverty line. It's people with jobs. It's people who are making a decent amount of money, who may own a car. But when you dig deeper into those numbers, like Angie said, I think it was 28% are unbanked, 27% are underbanked and using alternative financial services, paying too much for access to their own money. And so when we talk about the service gap, where the opportunities are for innovation, where we need products, services, and other things that help bring those underserved populations, because many of them are underserved. There's not currently something that meets their needs. That's something that we look in many ways to the fintech community, to the developer community, to start exploring where the opportunities are for innovation.
Thank you, Marshall. And Gretchen, I mean, your organization really understands what this liquid asset poverty means for people here in Miami. Can you just talk about what it looks like for a family and what some of the challenges they face are?
Sure. So we actually were very involved in the Family Assets Count study, and we were the local organization that helped to launch all of that data. And a lot of the programs that we offer through the Prosperity Campaign are designed to directly address some of these issues. And I would just say that a lot of the statistics that have been shared so far for the city of Miami, the Miami-Dade County actually is not that much better off, even though it includes some very wealthy municipalities and sections of the county. They're still not that much better off. So the clients that we see on a daily basis, and over the course of a year, we work with about 5,000 families around the county. They come to us with a number of different issues. We provide what we call comprehensive household wellness services. So we address public benefits, healthcare access, financial coaching, financial literacy, free tax prep, all of that. Our poorest clients, the people that have extremely low incomes, actually are not great candidates for savings programs and for a lot of the programs that we offer through financial coaching, and it's because public policy has failed them. There are asset limits. When they start to save too much money, they lose subsidies for childcare, for housing, things of that nature, and at the end of the day, they actually are more poor than they were beforehand. So that's one thing that I think is important to highlight.
Great. And Solana, can you sort of expand the view a little bit and talk about what this looks like when you look across Latin America?
Yeah, and I'll expand very broadly, globally, and then sort of land it to Latin America. You know, you were asking about financial inclusion. What it means at its core, it's basically having access to a secure account where you can receive, store, and use money, right? I mean, it's very, very basic. 2.5 billion people around the world don't have access to a bank account, and many millions more don't use one on a regular basis. That's half of the adult world population, right? That's huge, and that's not a developing market issue, right? More than 70 million people in North America don't have access to a bank account. In Latin America, it's about 300 million people, right? So that's kind of what we're talking about. And who are these people, and why is financial inclusion important? They're mothers, they're fathers, they're refugees, they're students, they're workers that don't have access to things that we take for granted. Proof of identity, the availability to get a loan at a reasonable cost, right? The availability to get health care, to get insurance. They're just excluded from those services. And that's why it matters, right? That's why it matters. That's why financial inclusion is important, and it's our responsibility.
Great. And we'll come to some of the solutions, because I think you guys all do shine a light on some things that are working. But before that, I'll ask you sort of a different question, which is, you're both companies that are startups with experience in finance, but outside the typical big bank. We represent Citi, MasterCard. You know, from the outside, what prompted you to start something? What was the problem that you thought you could solve in this financial inclusion space?
Well, first of all, let me add a little bit on what Solana was saying, is that financial inclusion means provide to individuals a financial identity, to provide individuals what we call now the opportunity to be a digital persona, be able to interact with new technologies, be able to create the vehicles that could show evidence of their earnings. They may be housekeepers, bus drivers, waiters, with different ways to get to make their living. But definitely they need not only to storage in a digital way their money in order to avoid the risk of being robbed later at night or in the morning. They need to show that they exist, and that's part of the challenges that we have today. In order to do that, we realized from Nova Payment that we needed to work on different strategies. We always talk about the base of the pyramid, but within the base of the pyramid, there are multiple pyramids. Mm-hmm. And these consumers, because at the end they are personas and consumers, are touched daily by multiple entities, private and government entities, and also by others, individuals within their circle of influence. So we decide to start to approach the opportunity from the B2B angle, from the Coca-Cola, from the beverage companies, from the retailers, because they serve every day those individuals. Sure. We always say that cash is for the economies what the carbon is for the ambience. And you see the commitment of multiple organizations about non-smoking organization, but no one has launched a campaign to become a cashless organization. So we work with those type of organizations that generate cash or collect cash every day and touch every day those individuals, because they are the vehicles to reach them. So we start from helping to convert paper vouchers to digital. We start to put in hands to temporary workers that are part of the formal sector, but receive salary not on a regular basis, and a store value account with a companion MasterCard card, and with a with the ability to interact through a mobile device on different channels. So that was the strategy how we initiated. And from the B2B, we moved to the B2B to C, and then we launched to the B2C, that is the more complex, and we kind of elaborate a little bit more during the discussion.
Great. So you sort of started around 10 years ago with this
Yeah.
B2B approach, and then Etienne, your company is much newer, and you're looking at the problem in a different way. Can you talk about what you guys are seeing as something you can do about it?
Yes, we think at Walleteros that in fact the technology does exist, and our potential customers, they have something wonderful in their hand and they use it intensively. It's a smartphone. 85% of the US Hispanics have a smartphone, but 50% of them are unbanked or underbanked. And at the end, what we need to do is to put in their hands the opportunity to have a bank account and to reach them in another way that the bank is doing. And the question we think is, why are they not bankerized? Why? Because they can have a bank account. It's not a legal thing. They can open a bank account if they want, but they don't go to a bank. And why don't they go to a bank? And mainly, the biggest reason is because it's all about relationship and trust. They don't trust the banks. They don't feel at ease in a bank. And the bank is not offering them the services they need. And they go to other places like check cashing stores. And when I arrived here in the US, and someone told to me about the check cashing store, I said, what is that? I mean, check cashing store, what do you do there? Well, you cash your checks. You still use check in the US. Wow, okay. And you pay your bills. You pay a fee for paying your bills. Wow. Amazing. It's free in Europe. I mean, and you send money. Okay, we send money with Western Union. Okay, I do understand that. But it's time consuming. It's very expensive. You know, in a check cashing store, if you want to ask for a loan, payday loan, you can pay up to 700% APR. It's amazing. I mean, it's nonsense. And people are paying that. And many people in this country spend more money in fees in a check cashing store than for buying food. I mean, it doesn't make sense. So, when you know that in Africa, in Kenya, you have M-Pesa, it's a mobile wallet solution with 17 million of users. And they use their mobile phone like a banking system on a daily basis. And they send money, they pay with their phone. And we can do that here in the US too. And furthermore, it's easier here because we have a smartphone, we have checks, we have cards. So we brought together those concepts, mobile solution for people that are using their mobile phone much more than a typical US citizen. I mean, the US Hispanic are more smartphone savvy than an average American. So, and they are looking for mobile banking solution. With a card, they can buy in any store, buy any, withdraw cash at any ATM, they can buy online, and they can send money from one Walleteros to another Walleteros. So it's, we put in their hand a bank account, but it doesn't have the name of a bank account. It doesn't look like a bank account. And it's all about the opportunity to give them that product in their hand the right way, giving them the right product. And in a bank, you have hidden fees. We have no hidden fees. We have no maintenance fees. We have no minimum balance. They cannot afford to have a minimum balance in their account. And so we give all those solutions. They can take a picture of the check, and after 2 minutes, they get the money into their card. And but we are going to promote them to use the direct deposit instead of the checks because it's much better. And we are going to build for them a credit history. So we are going to be able to give them microloans at a much better interest rate than a check cashing store. We are building an ecosystem. We want them to be part of something big, which is I am Walletero, soy Walletero. And it's at the end of the day, financial inclusion is how to put the technology that already exists into the hand of someone who is ready to use it.
That's great. Gretchen, your team has been piloting something that doesn't solve the same problem, but that addresses many of the same concerns around trust and institutions, and a little bit of a misconception that immigrant communities might be less technologically savvy than the average American. Can you talk a little bit about that project and what you're learning?
Sure. So this past September, we launched a new savings account in partnership with Citi Inclusive Finance. We call it the Ways to Wealth Savings Program. And with Inclusive Finance, actually Inclusive Finance did all this work because we're not technologists. They developed an online portal where Catalyst Miami staff, our financial coaching team, are able to open Citi savings accounts for our clients. And we can do that from any laptop where we have an air cards. And we have a mobile service delivery model, so anywhere in the county. The savings account has a very low barrier for access, and access is a huge challenge for a lot of the people we serve. They may have poor credit, they may have debts, bad experiences with banks in the past, and this is one way to help bring them into the financial mainstream and start saving money with this no fee, no strings attached savings account.
Great. And I think, you used the word ecosystem, and I think that's sort of what the folks on the stage and the folks here represent, is really a financial ecosystem. Can we, what's broken about it, and what can we do by working together to fix it? Our organizations are both part of Better Than Cash, which is something that the USAID is putting together. But how can the developer community, the startup community, global banks, nonprofit institutions, businesses work together to start solving this problem?
Sure. I'll start and then I'll hand it over to you. If you think about financial inclusion, and we talked about it, it's a massive undertaking, right? None of us in this room, or none of the organizations that we each represent in this room, can do it alone. We have to work together to make this happen. We need public-private partnerships. We need partnerships between private organizations, and we need partnerships between private and public organizations. Why? Because the government is the single biggest inflow of money to this segment, right? 30% of what they receive comes within the government in the form of either Social Security or other social benefits. We need the government to help with regulations. We need the government to help with KYC processes. And we need private partnerships because they bring efficiency, they bring execution, they bring innovation, they bring distribution. So that's the ecosystem that's going to crack the code. And then going back to your other point, just because somebody has an account doesn't mean that our job is done, right? Those accounts need to be used, and most often they're not. Very often they're not. So we need to think about full ecosystems where, as we build end-to-end solutions, we're really thinking about what type of expansion in acceptance do we need to bring? What type of cash-in and cash-out networks do we need to bring? What type of capabilities for personal payments do we need to develop? Bill pay, transit use cases, et cetera, right? So that as those people have the accounts, they can use them to do the things that they need to do in their day-to-day lives.
Yeah, exactly. The real challenge is to create the appropriate recipe to interconnect different players so we can offer a consistent experience to the end users. The way that they interact with at the retail level should be the same way they interact at the mobile level. So the power, it's on the level of the end user, so it will be in its hands, the ability to decide through which channel interact based on their availability of data or availability of to pay to perform that transaction and in a specific channel. So it's a combination of effort, and everyone needs to win, and because nobody's going to do this for nonprofit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marshall, did you want to say something?
I heard two things during Annabelle's answer and Solana's answer earlier that really caught my attention. The first is financial identity. That's a huge component of what we do, and it encompasses so many different things. With Citi Community Development, our focus is on trying to enable people to build a stronger financial identity, whether that's improving a credit score or acquiring one, taking advantage of being able to fully take advantage of all of the assets that build a strong financial identity, the ability to save, the ability to plan for the future, the ability to absorb financial shocks. But the other thing, the partnership notion is also, I mean, that's key to how Citi Community Development functions and Citi Inclusive Finance. I mean, when Gretchen mentioned that, that inclusive finance was key because they had the technological expertise, but without the subject matter expertise of organizations like Catalyst Miami, who understand the local population, understand what people really need, understand where their needs are not being served, and have an understanding of how those needs might be better served through a service or a product or a program. Those kinds of partnerships that are led by the expertise of partners like Catalyst Miami are the ones that enable us to build or work together to build the types of solutions that actually provide value for those people. Because without it, you're designing in the dark, and you're designing at people instead of with them or for them. And I mean, it's through programs like that one and several others that a product like the Citi Access account was able to be born, which is a checklist transaction account where the maintenance fees are very easily waived through either maintaining a certain minimum balance or using direct deposit or paying bills online with it. It's a product that was recognized by the FDIC as being incredibly inclusive, and it allows us to build a solution that's also, from a business perspective, one that's sustainable and viable for a broader commercial audience. I mean, it's not only a product that's popular for people who have never had a bank account before, or for people who typically look at bank accounts as something that doesn't meet their needs, but also it's much more broadly popular to people who just are used to not going into a branch or using their smartphone for everyday banking. And so it's programs like that that allow and enable organizations like Citi Inclusive Finance and Citi Community Development to develop solutions that are really not only inclusive, but not a philanthropic measure, but a really genuinely viable and sustainable commercial one that helps expand financial inclusion for the underserved.
Great. I mean, I think that you guys have all referenced partnership and sort of different players in that ecosystem bringing a different mindset to solving a problem that's really, really big. Etienne, what do you think that a developer brings to solving this problem that a global financial institution or a nonprofit might not be able to? What's that ingredient that a developer brings to it?
Well, that's a good question. I know what they still have to do. For instance, for us, we still need a solution that is a non-plastic solution. We still have a plastic card. For what? Why? We don't need a plastic card anymore. But and it's about partnership because
Someone's crying over here.
no.
That's okay. I just inherited mobile too.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I still want to keep MasterCard on board. No, I'm not putting it away. No,
you showed me the card the other day. It has a MasterCard. You were proud of it.
We don't have I'm not talking about the card. I'm talking about the plastic. I mean, what if you have the plastic inside the smartphone, just like Apple Pay? Apple Pay, behind Apple Pay, there is a card. There is a bank. So they use your rails. I mean, it's not about taking out MasterCard or Visa. No, it's just I'm just saying that if we still have a card in the hand, it's because there is no agreement between all the players in order to make it feasible to pay with your phone. You tap your phone on the POS and that's it. And Apple Pay did it. Why Apple can do this and the other cannot? It's a question I have. And on the other side, from my point of view, on fintech, technology is quite a high level already. You get so many solutions. When you see that someone take a picture of a check, our technology check 150 points of the check, of the picture. The signature, everything, I mean, the code, and so it's quite already high tech. And but the missing mile, the last chain is to put that in the hands of the user.
Great. So I'm going to just do one question down the line, and then we'll turn it over to the audience for questions. You have a room full of developers at your disposal. What would you ask them to help you figure out?
Well, depending on the segment that many program managers are dedicating their time to reduce the use of cash, there's different challenges. One of the biggest challenges is on the reloads, how to create efficient mechanisms to avoid the use of cash, because always there is the needs to convert cash. Okay. Cash will always exist, but we expect that in a very lower percentage as it is today. So reload networks, it's a huge challenge for everyone of us that are working in the space. And as an example, we just create an open API that will help developers to use it to create their own programs. Great. Okay, so for instance, there's one case that is going to start by the second semester. It's a company that is going to be in the space of micro lending. So they're going to use our open API, and through the open API that we're providing, we're also helping our customers to increase the number of new accounts and new relationships they have. So those kind of, I think, openness, it's necessary to accelerate the process. I also know that large networks such as MasterCard are also offering dedicated zones for developers, not only offering many APIs, but also software development kits. Visa is doing the same. So everyone, doing the same? No, it's doing the same. Yeah. It's a trend. It's a trend, and I think it's very relevant to get access to their assets, because what they're doing and what we're doing, obviously, with the different sizes, it's to provide access to our assets to third parties, and that's a new way of collaboration, of co-creation, innovation. So you don't need to recreate the wheels. Yeah. So that's the challenge.
Thank you. Okay, one quick challenge. What challenge would you pose to this community to help you solve?
I think it is about looking at a problem and coming up with innovative ways to go about it. So I'll give an example, right? So we're very consciously expanding sort of our walls to bring in subject matter experts like developers, right, to help us solve solutions. And so, for example, we just launched late last year MasterCard Labs in in Nairobi, right? And basically their problem, and this is bringing in people, developers, their problem statement is to help 100 million underserved customers to have access to financial services in innovative ways through a new innovative business model, right? And through better products and services. And I think that's the type of, and this was, with the help of the Melinda Gates Foundation and so on, but that's the way we're looking at it, right? The end-to-end problem and what are injecting new ways of thinking about it so that we can crack the code to really deliver an end-to-end solution.
Great. Gretchen. What's on your wish list?
It has to be quick. Well, I have one comment and then two things that I want. Sure. So the comment, and this resonates with what you were saying earlier, I feel like the most successful innovation, just in general, but especially in the financial inclusion space, is when we're able to identify a trend, something that is already happening at the grassroots level, and then really amplify it and accelerate it through technology. That's something that we've been able to do very successfully through our Lending Circles program. Lending Circles happen informally in a lot of immigrant communities, in particular Caribbean communities, and through formalization of the Lending Circle model and pairing that with another online portal, we're able to help people save money and establish and build credit. And that's not something that we could have made up on our own, and it would have naturally been successful. It was identifying something that was already happening in the communities that we serve and lifting it up. So that's my comment. The two things that I want, certainly at Catalyst Miami, we're always thinking about how we can scale up. 5,000 people a year certainly helps Miami-Dade County, but it really just scratches the surface when you consider the statistics that were shared earlier. And technology is really the way to scale up. So we're always looking for ways that we can do that. The other thing that I think technology can help address is the idea of scarcity, which is kind of a new concept that some behavioral economists have been talking about. There's scarcity of money, scarcity of time, and scarcity of bandwidth. And this is kind of the new theory behind why people are poor and why people stay poor and what it means to your brain to actually be poor and living in constant stress. So these solutions are not going to have a lot of impact if they don't address money, time, and bandwidth. Bandwidth being the cognitive capacity people have to actually take care of some of these important details in their life.
Right. Do you guys want to take this one too?
For me, that question, for city community development and city inclusive finance, the question is always the same. How can we expand access to the underserved? How can we enable more people to save, build assets, plan for the future, and withstand financial shocks, and bring them into the mainstream financial system? And that question, so really the question will be, how can technology help expand our ability to continue to do that with partners like Catalyst Miami and others? I would say in other ways, Citi is asking that question now with the Citi Mobile Challenge, which is already well underway, and solutions that will come through this through the finalists of the challenge. Many of them will be inclusive by nature, because because technology does allow you to scale and replicate. It does allow things that you build for those who are isolated, who are underserved, or who don't necessarily have access to mainstream financial services, or can't necessarily walk into a bank and open an account or build a credit score easily, would be applicable to people all over the world. And so those things are very powerful. And I think that's the challenge that we lay out with things like the Citi Mobile Challenge, and also through the programs that we do through City Community Development and many of the partnerships that we have with municipal governments and nonprofits. We're asking that question all the time, and that question is obviously posed to you as well.
Great. And I know you're a startup, so maybe you want to just offer some closing thoughts, and before we turn it over for questions, whatever you'd like to close with.
I would propose, Gretchen, to why don't you use Walleteros? Because you can enroll those family in 5 minutes, and they are bankerized in 5 minutes. They just need an ID, a basic ID, passport or whatsoever, and then they have no fees. If they don't use it, they don't pay, and they have a card where they can buy in any store online with raw cash. They have a place to keep their money safe. They can pay their bills. They can load their checks. So they have all the services they may need in very easy way, and for no fees if they don't use it. So it's very. We think it's the way it should be. For everyone, and we have to talk. I mean, we have.
See, we're making connections already. Great, thank you. Well, thank you to our panelists. Questions? I don't know if there's microphones for the room. Are there microphones for the room? Can we share the ones that are? Okay, great. I'll start right here. Even better.
Thank you. Boris Irmas. Could we take the conversation quickly to financial inclusion's sister, which is financial literacy? So we, as you rightly said, people need access to an account to hold their money, dispose of their money, transfer the money, and manage their money. But how do we use technology as well? Let's say they have access to their money and an account. How do we avoid, as we saw in the last financial downturn, when someone lost their home because they didn't understand a basic thing like a variable rate in a mortgage? And it's not that you have to be in business, but when you lose your home because you don't understand a basic financial concept as a variable rate in a mortgage, we can have financial inclusion, but how about the content? Any ideas, or can you color, how do we bring financial literacy so they can wisely use financial inclusion under the toolbox?
So that's a fantastic question. I do believe we focused a lot on systems at first, and I think I'd love to answer this by saying that we talk about financial capability, which includes financial literacy, right? So it isn't just teaching someone, but actually, the behaviors that are associated with it, and the resources and understanding to make more positive, more constructive financial decisions, and also, being incentivized to make those decisions in the future. It's incredibly important. So one of the partnerships that we have with Housing Opportunities Collaborative is called the Virtual Counselor Network. And it is a way of using technology to address the problem of scarcity of housing counseling, funding for housing counseling, and the travel involved in some major cities. This required for people to go and get not only housing counseling, but access to other kinds of counseling that can help them keep their home, like as you just suggested. And so Virtual Counselor Network is a standalone platform where it has audiovisual, it has the ability to scan documents, and you have access to a certified housing counselor that can help you, that can examine the documents, help you make decisions, help get you out of trouble or help you avoid trouble. What it really allows you to do is optimize access to expertise, not replacing it through like a knowledge base or Q&A, but actually getting access to a live housing counselor without having to drive around to 6 different places. And it also allows those in the housing counseling industry to be able to optimize the way in which they do work. And the City and County of LA has expanded that model to use Virtual Counselor Network for small business counseling as well. Expanding access to crucial services and information for people so that they can help them build their financial capability. So the services and the services and systems piece of it is also definitely being paired in many different ways by the financial literacy and financial capability piece of it as well. But those are also challenges because it's very difficult to scale expertise. How do you replicate a person that is a trained expert housing counselor or a financial coach? It's very challenging. But if you can optimize the access to that expertise, then that actually is a huge step in the right direction.
Great.
So, I
Thank
hope
you.
that answers your question.
Start with go ahead.
I have 2 questions, and I don't need the mic.
Okay.
Hopefully you can hear me. The first one is, how much of this is cultural? It's so nice to say, well, these people really need this, and these people really need that. But how much of it is culturally saving, whether they're used to saving, whether in the countries they come from, that's, it just seems to me, so that's one question. The second one is, if it's such a great opportunity in the market, why isn't the free market taking it up? If there's 2.5 billion people, just like with social networking, which I think is highly underutilized and could be very useful in this, so why isn't the free market dealing with this the way it potentially could?
It is.
So those are the 2 questions.
It is.
It's not easy.
Go ahead. So there's 2 questions, and you can take whichever one you like. The first one was, how much of this, the problem that we're solving is cultural? Whether that be immigrants that are coming into a new banking system that they haven't experienced or whatever that may be. And the second question is, if there's such a market opportunity, 2.5 billion people that are unbanked, why isn't the free market taking care of it? So you've been in the trenches. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
The answer to the first question is, I'm not sure it's about culture, because in this country, 1/3 of the population is facing that problem. So, and maybe it's more about the thing that the services they receive and the way they receive it is not the right way to do it. And the banking system is trying to find out solution, but it's quite difficult. It's not so easy. It's not just, that's it, I have the idea and I'm going to implement it and everyone is going to use it. Hopefully, the solution we have is going to do that, hopefully. And I'm working every day to do that. But believe me, it's not easy. It's a very difficult thing to do.
And you've spent sort of 10 years in the free market. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
I'm glad that we have a libertarian in the room. But I agree with you that there are some cultural aspects in the problem. But we may recognize that for at least in Latin America, that is a market in which we operate, the regulators has the cultural program. They see the banks as a weak person. So there's no rules in place that could protect and participants, a new participant that wants to develop the opportunity in a way that they can do it as here in the United States. So there's many pieces that needs to be built, and one very important is the rules, so we can put speed on the process. The regulators has a big role. Banks are not adequate to serve. Current banks are not adequate to serve these large markets and this opportunity. They're very entertained on lending, on the credit side, and to serve the underserved and the unbanks. It's a business of revenues based on transactions. So you need large scales, but you need also the rules, and you need to build a lot of isolated pieces today, so the service could make sense.
Okay. I had a comment and a question. I think like Solana, hit the nail on the head twice, right? So the first thing that she said, which is really the question of what is the problem you're trying to solve, right? And I think that's the first thing you need to address, like before you come up with a solution, like what is the actual problem you're trying to solve? And secondly, I think her second point that she made, which I think is the big issue here, if you're trying to focus on Latin America is one thing. If you're trying to focus on the United States, because you were talking about Miami before, if you're trying to focus on the United States, then you got to deal with the U.S. government, right? And her point was, the partnership between public and private sector. The U.S. government already has something called an EBT card, right? So that's basically a mechanism for people to have access to. That's how they get their money deposited. That's how they have their demographics. They know who's spending. They know where they're spending. If they go to Publix, whatever. So I think from a technology perspective, the issue that would need to be answered is how do we displace the U.S. government, right? And get our foot in the door and take a piece of the EBT business.
I guess that was a good question.
Oh, you were making a comment.
No, but that's a question. How do you
Okay, I don't know if we have the answer to that
because
question.
that's the nut you got to crack in the U.S.
Yeah. I think it's a good question. I'm not sure anybody's raising their hand to answer that.
Yeah. So I've been hearing a lot of fancy statistics, and if I were to problem solve this in my mind, Pareto, two things will come to mind. The first problem is sounds like it's barriers to entry, right? And that's more for the brick and mortar banks. You mentioned that you have to have a certain balance, it's charges, fees, etc. But the second one is trust, and this might be more to you, Etienne. Is why should I trust like your company or your network, right? Like, so I guess it's more around security. Like, what is your company doing from like a network security standpoint to give consumers that trust to allow them to take that next step and go from cash to using their phone? And also, if you know of any startup companies that are doing that, let me know so I can invest.
All right. So just to repeat the question before you answer, one is, a comment around there's two issues: barriers to entry, and trust. And then the question for Etienne is, what is your company doing around the trust issue from a technology standpoint with security? And are you aware of anyone that's really addressing that?
Okay, I'm going to try to answer to both questions in one. You know, from our point of view, it's about relationship. We need someone to eye to eye to say to the potential user, you know me, we know each other, and believe me, you can be Walleteros. It's free. You have no hassle, no hidden fees. Just use it, and if you like it, you keep it. If you don't like it, you throw it away. And when you take a picture of your check, you still have the check in your hand. So if you don't get the money, you still can go to the check cashing store. And at the end is they need to be able to try. I want to try. Let's see if it works, and then I will adopt it. They may not have to sign plenty of papers, and they're not so scared about the security because we have the MasterCard logo on our card. So it's I mean, no, which is very important. And
you're building points. I like that.
So, but they need to be, you know, in the last FDIC report, they say that if Citi, and I think they mentioned Citi, want to get into that segment of the population, they may not go like Citi. They have to go in the mom-and-pop stores, in malls, with another look and feel, with ugly colors, and a very standard place where you don't feel like in a bank. Because they don't feel that a bank is not for them. It's not for me. I mean, who's paying this? Are you paying this with my money? I have no money. So how do you do that? And when they go in the check cashing store, okay, it's expensive, okay, but I know the guy. We know each other. And when I get into the store, the teller says, "Hi, Louis, how are you today? Why you make $500 this week? Wonderful! And don't forget to send money to your mom and to pay your bills." And they know each other. They trust each other. It works. It's expensive, time consuming, but they know each other. And in a branch, they don't feel that relationship. And from our point of view, this is the key point in order to make them switch from the cash solution-based solution in check cashing stores to a bankerized solution like we have. Because at the end, behind us, there is a bank. So we are not against the bank. We need banks. Because the money is safe, and maybe the regulation could be improved. But who am I to explain to the government, U.S. government, how to do things? But at the end, I don't think the security issue is such a big problem. We use secured link and everything. I mean, money right now can move from one place to another very safely. It's not a problem anymore.
Elena and Jorge, just before I take another question, how are we on time? Couple more questions? Okay. Two more. All right. I'd like to see if a female would like to ask a question. Right here.
Thank you. This was fascinating and inspiring. Question about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. Some people see that as their means of financial inclusion. Please talk about challenges and opportunities in that space.
All right, who wants to take that one? Cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. Some people see it as a means to financial inclusion. Challenges and opportunities in that space. Everybody's looking at you, so. Everybody's looking at Marshall.
I'm definitely not a cryptocurrency expert. I'm not a Bitcoin expert. I would respectfully decline to answer the question on Bitcoin at this point. Although I do appreciate the thought behind it.
Okay. Anybody?
I have an answer. It's not mine. It's from the CEO of BitPay, which is a very big organization on Bitcoin. And I went in this kind of sessions a few days ago, and he explained that the only way to use Bitcoin, the right way to do it, is avoiding saying to the end user that he's using Bitcoins. Okay, so just using Bitcoin like it is, and it is in fact a way to communication system. Bitcoin is not just money; it's much more than the money. It's a protocol. It's a network. It's bigger than this. And BitPay, they say that they are totally 100% compliance, and they do everything just like a bank, but quicker, faster, in an easier way. But my knowledge about Bitcoin is so slow that I don't want to go further than this.
All All right, one more question. Right here.
Yeah, quick question. So we talked a little bit about financial identity and the huge number of obviously of underserved and folks that have bank accounts that don't use them. Are we not giving these people enough credit? Like in my personal life in Miami, I have, for example, 3 service providers. They trust the bank. They know how to use a debit card. They don't want to have a financial identity, right? They feel like the minute they start depositing money in a bank, there's a paper trail, and they're going to eventually have to pay taxes and whatnot. So how much of that number is folks that don't want to really have a paper trail? Have you guys thought, I mean, does that come up ever?
So just to repeat the question, is there, how much of this problem is self-selected, basically? How many people are self-selecting out of the financial system?
Well, in our experience, I think people may choose to be outside of the, to remain in the darkness, but that costs, and costs a lot. And the adoption of the solution that we provide is it has been incredible welcome by women. So the women are in charge of paying the bills, taking care of the kids. So it depends on the role that maybe you want to play in society or in your community or in your house or within your family. But I see that concern more on small merchants that don't want to pay taxes for the sales, or they don't want to collect taxes. I mean the sales taxes for the government. But I don't see that on the side of the potential depositors.
And just a perspective, right? I think that, and it goes to one of the questions that was asked earlier as well, around the culture, right? I think human nature, right, is resistant to change, right? And so, I don't know this thing. I'm not going to get anywhere near it, right? I don't even want to experiment. And yeah, I understand there may be some benefits, but I'm just not going to go there right now, right? Scarcity of time, scarcity of bandwidth. I just don't want to deal with it, right? And so I think one of the ways in which we are hoping to drive inclusion is to really give some of these people, and there will be people that will self-select, right? But to give these people the need to interact with the thing being the stored value account. Doesn't matter if it's a card or a phone or whatever, right? There's different form factors, the stored value account. And that's why we're so passionate about partnerships with, for example, government, right? Because then you're saying to those people that are receiving those funds, they're now going to be delivered to you, and they're going to be delivered in this thing. And now you've got to play with the thing, right? You've got to get the money because you need the money and it's there. And once you start playing with it, once you start discovering that you may at first just cash out, right? But then you can cash out and purchase something and, that wasn't so bad. And now, by the way, that money that you have, you can actually directly pay your family who's, in another city, and you don't have to necessarily go. So they start playing with it and they start seeing the benefits. And then they say, you know what? I might actually cash in more money because this was more convenient, right? So it's a process, it's like a new kid with a toy, right? They first see it and, they're looking at it, exploring it, and then they see the benefits and then they like it, and then you can't take it away from them, right? And I think that's part of the learning curve that we need to all encourage.
Great. So that's about it. Thank you so much.
I would just say one. I'm sorry, just one last thing. Just to your point about understanding the idea, to understanding the motivations and stuff. There's a fantastic report by the National Council of La Raza called "Banking in Color," and it's an intense study of exactly those kinds of behaviors and the ideas behind them, and some of the cultural elements behind it. That they went and they did this deep study. They just released the report somewhat recently. Check it out. It's really informative. There's a couple of studies like it. Sorry.
No problem. All right. Well, thank you to our panel. Thank you guys for coming. We're really excited.
Cool. Well, on behalf of Refresh, I want to thank Citi Fintech Meetups for choosing us to be partners with them and bringing these meetups together. We have a bunch of other Citi Fintech meetups coming up soon. We'll make those announcements through the standard Refresh channel. I'd like to thank our panelists for agreeing to come down here and our moderator for doing a great job at moderating this event. So thank you. Round of applause for our group. Thank you. So before we go, we're going to do 2 short closings, one from Citi and one from Refresh. So if you want to come up here.
I might have a loud voice, so apologies. Wanted to thank you for coming and say that our next meetup is going to be in 2 months. So stay tuned. Come to fintechmeetups@citi.com. And thank you all, especially MasterCard, who's one of our partners for the local events. Thank you a lot.
Cool. And earlier we asked how many of you have heard of Refresh Miami. There were quite a few of you who haven't heard about our group. We are a 501c3 not-for-profit. We've been hosting meetups for about 8 years now, once a month for 8 years. Haven't missed one yet. And our topics are generally or always about technology. And so this fintech partnership is near and dear to me. I have a fintech company. It services the other side, the 1%. Versus the financial inclusion, but it is a fintech company, so it feels it's definitely we're excited. So one quick thing about our next meetup, like I said, it's every month. April 30th is our next one. I just got the confirmation. We've got the head of Google Cloud coming to come and talk about what they're doing, so we're excited. So that'll be next month, and check out our website. Thank you.